So I just want to do this comparison, right? So I think this is significant and worth mentioning, right? Now, this one zoomed out a little tiny bit because we're talking about a little bit further distance, but not much further. Sort of like around double the distances. So here, this is at the Brúna Boyne, right, in Ireland. And we've got Dove, Noth, and Newgrange, right? Three sites. Three very important and significant sites in Ireland. Huge ones, all close together. Not spaced out far apart. Huge sites, really close together. Now, one of them is a clump of multiple sites. It's almost sort of like, it's almost kind of like babies are around the mother, really, because it's a big site with... I've actually been there, but I've not been inside it. If you know it or not, it's actually loads of smaller mums around a large one, and it has actually got it's chamber inside, but it's a circular shape, right? And it makes you think of like cells or magnets around something, or like when you've got small baby animals around the mother one, right? Now, Newgrange, which is the big, it's kind of like the more well known because it's more elaborate, and then you've got this one here, which sort of is. It was big, but it's kind of just there's not much left of it now. Just kind of very damaged earthworks. Now, in Ireland, there aren't any sites as these are the biggest, and there are other cairns and other structures and chambers, but these are huge and massive. But they're all close to each other, so this area was important, and it's got the river here. They're so close to the river, right? We're talking about under 2 kilometres, and that one's even closer to the river there, right? Now, this river runs underneath them. If this is not, so it's that north's going, upwards that way. It's we've got it the right way around. So the river runs underneath them. Now, the significant thing about our site here, right, is that we've got 3 sites, okay? There are 3 sites. Like there are 3 sites over here and 3 sites over here. Now, the thing about our 3 sites is it was meant to be the Brigantes, which is for bridge. But they get they refer to the Celtic god Bridget as female, not male. But these sites are all elongated, right? All 3 of them. That one's more of a Liberty Cap shape, and it's almost right, and it's down below in the valley. It's almost like a little symbol of a Liberty Cap in the grass, but like a big version of it, but on a wider scale in the valley. So Castle Hill's elongated, and before De Lacy made the earthworks into that kind of bow shape or ship shape, it would have been like a long barrow shape, like Dunelm. I think it's significant, right? Now, we know if you get Hetty Pegler's tuft in Stroud, it is female shaped, and it's like the female sexual organs, really, and you go into it and come out of it like the birth and rebirth. It's also like that Newgrange and Noth. And on the Isle of Man, there is a small, really, really good condition example of it, and that's female type. Now, that's meant to be... There are some other structures on there which are not in very good condition, right? There are both male and female ones. There were some long barrow-shaped ones and some round ones, but they call it the Isle of Man, yet that site that we know of is more of female shape. Now, both Ireland and Britain, England, both have the elongated structures, the long barrows, because there are some in Ireland and in England, right? but they're mainly known for being in Britain, not really in Spain or France at all. Now, with these three, right, the river runs over the top of them. The river actually runs above them, over the top, right? Now, the Warrior Mound is not that far from the river at all. In fact, it's about double the distance, or just over the double the distance, that Newgrange is from the river. It's not a great deal different. It's quite close, right? That's significant. Now, the thing with these three sites is this, right? So, the distance from the Dunelm Hill, well, I'm going to refer to it as a bridge house because I kind of think it's right to refer to it as a bridge house, right? The Dunelm Bridge House to Castle Hill Bridge House, right, is around, give or take, not much in it, very close to exactly double the distance from Castle Hill to the Warrior Burial or the Warrior Tomb. It's double the distance, so that's quite an accurate measurement, right? And the river runs along the top of all of them. And they're all more male shaped, and none of them are chambered. You don't go inside them, right? Now, with these ones, the distance is kind of closer together. They're a little bit more closer clumped together than these. These are a little bit more spaced out, but not that much. I mean, we're talking like the entire distance of all these sites is, well, that distance between linking them all up is 3.21 kilometres. And here it's 9. So it's kind of like triple the distance between all three. But the distance between the closest two here is not actually that much off the furthest apart here. So we're talking generally, it's not a long stone throw away, right? Now, I think that because these are circular in Ireland, right, because they're circular and you go inside them, that is female significant. And they're all close together. These are huge, not at the far ends of Ireland, they're all close together. And the same with these here. And we know we've got Maiden Castle, which is definitely a hill fort, right? Maiden Castle's a hill fort. We've got lots of hill forts around England, and there are hill fort structures in Ireland. But these are different because these are more ceremonial. There's something different about these. They're not just hill forts, they're long barrows like hill forts. And these aren't hill forts either. I mean, you can go on top of these, but these are religious structures that you go inside, right? Now, the thing with the male genitals is you don't go inside it, do you? It gets rubbed. It can go inside something else, but something doesn't go inside it. So if you went on the top of it, it would be kind of almost like, it's, that's it. Whereas for these, you enter. Do you know what I mean? Now, the thing about Ireland, and also, right, these sites here, you can see them in proximity. This is where the ocean is. It's inland on a river coming in from the east, right? Now, the thing about these sites as well is that they're accessible by a river, although it's a lot further inland. And it's essentially central to all of England. I mean, except for, it could have been a little bit further up, but it's central to the entire island. Now, it's a lot further inland, deep into the heart. But this is where the river starts, in these mountains here, which are raised up, right? And it is sort of an elongated, the whole thing's elongated anyway, this Pennine bit here. I know we've got some more up there, but it's... So, this river starts here and then flows straight past these sites, right past them, and then out to the sea on that side. In the same... essentially the same configuration as here, but not as far, right? Now, the thing with England is it is long and elongated, like the long barrows. And I've done some more discussions all about the long barrows and the Brigantes term for bridge and all that. And Ireland is more of a circular round shape, like the sites here, right? So if you had one symbol in male and female, the mainland island would be more male, and the other would be more female. Now the thing is that we've got round like Heteropegilus tuft and similar to that, and we've got Belosnat, which is more male. At places mainly around the coastline, we don't really find too many of them, or not ones that are remaining. They're mainly around the coast, and so it's the same in Ireland as well. You do get them inland, but you get them around the top of here and around here. Okay, because they've got hills. They've got hills up here as well, right? And then you've got some on islands, mainly coastal. And to be honest, you access the river from coastal as well. Now there are hill forts all over Ireland, right in the middle of Ireland, and there are hill forts in England all over the place. But we're talking about not just something that might be a big town, which is clearly a big town. We're talking about something that is a little bit different, has a little bit more religious significance. Now, what other sites are there, right? What other sites are there where there's 3 of them in close proximity of the same style, and it definitely can symbolise something, and here as well, you know? Oh, there we go. So, there you go, right? Now, if you can't recognise that, these are round and big, and you go inside them, and thereby the river goes underneath. And these are long and big, and the river goes over the top, right? But you don't go inside them. Is that not symbolic to the male, sexual, reproductive? It is, stimulated from the outside on top of, and these are going inside, right? And but they're all big, right? I think that is significant, and with the river, and with the way you come in from the river, it's too much to ignore. And I really get annoyed when there's these people who go, just like the loosest connections ever. They're not the loosest connections ever. And if you say that, I think you're retarded. I think you are retarded in education, and if you need a university professor who's got a grade and learnt something from someone else, or learned it from someone else, who looked at something and made something an observation, right, and wrote it down, and then everyone learned it, right? I mean, it's you're ignoring things that are too evident, too significant. So I think that there were either different divisions of the religious orders, either male and female, or there were different studies that they specialised in. Now, you could say that males going out on male energy, male hormones and testosterone makes people go out into the world and travel, look at the stars, go hunting, and, orientating themselves with the outside world. Or you could say that, and the other energy is more relationships and people and emotions and human interaction and stuff like that, and studying the inside world, both are significant to, religious experiences as well. Now, we happen to have supply of a worldwide recognised sacrament, which is a psilocybe, which clearly is worldwide recognised, on these hills, which are right by these sites, right, which is a supply. Now, that isn't exactly here. Ireland does have some sites which are correct to that, which they've got the Wicklow Hills, where they've got cairns on, but they're, spread out and quite small, but they have got the Wicklow Hills, and they have got hills, up the northeast and other areas, right? But England's got Scotland as well, right? I'm not saying, there aren't any other places that can be significant places of operations, like up in Scotland, but you've got a different specialisation again in this area. You've got these recumbent stone circles with the stone laid down, and it's laid down between. It's almost as if the recumbent stones make a circuit shape, and then the recumbent laid down part is one part of the circuit. And this is the place where it was really, really well placed for studying the lunar cycles, not unlike Karnak, where there are certain observations that can only be made there in that place. I mean, they've got the Gravinis temple there anyway, which is a large temple, but that was only stone, not covered in earth. There's something to do with it's symbolic, and there are types of people, right, who have got a type of heritage and a type of brain and a type of way of looking at the world and a type of communicating through symbolic things where the shape of it means something and it tells you information by what it symbolises, right? And some people just hate that. They don't like it. They think it's got to be in letters, spelled out, ALMONDBRY. They don't believe in education through symbolic reference, or even the place, or even the valley that it's in and the shape that it's in. They don't believe that a hill, like a giant mountain the shape of a Liberty Cap deep down in the valley is like a Liberty Cap hidden in the grass, But it's a big deal for that area and the people who are concerned in that area, field of study or activities. This is it. I think it is significant to mention, right, the three sites in the locale with the river going over the top, and you actually go on top of those sites. And here we have we've got the river going underneath these three together with the river going underneath, but they're a little bit closer together to each other. Right, but then again, being closer together, they're a little bit closer to the coast, whereas these are a little bit more further apart and a little bit further away from the coast, right? And these start up in the hills in the mountains. So I think that is significant, and any archaeologist who would just toss that aside and say it's a load of rubbish, I challenge their intelligence, and I think they're wrong. And I'll tell any university professor on this whole planet that they're wrong if they don't think there's any significance in that or meaning. They're in denial, and they don't want to admit that these three sites are as significant as these ones. And these have been, the heritage of these has absolutely been really treated badly and vandalised. Yet there have been celebratory additions such as the Imperial Chemical Industries factory and the Emily Moore transmitter mast, and the Victoria Jubilee Tower, and bonfires set on actually one of these sites, in some sort of acknowledgement that really tramples over the history, and a new order has taken over with some new domination of the progress of mankind, yet with complete lack of respect and acknowledgement for the actual sites. In fact, plain straight right building on top of it. If they did that in Ireland, there would be more than if they've concreted on the top of one of them anyway. I don't know whether that's just to hold the roof up or what, but I'm quite sure that if they planted an Imperial Chemical Industries factory actually right next to it and built houses on top of one of these sites, even though one of them is really, really kind of in bad condition anyway, there would be more than the troubles in Ireland IRA going on, I can tell you that now. But yet here we seem to be celebrating it, and we've got entire Facebook groups of women who are just like obsessed with taking photographs of a Jubilee Tower, mainly because of Coronation Street. In fact, that's all they do. They just go there and stare at the tower as if it's some sort of hypnotising thing. Maybe they think there's nothing else there to photograph. A lot of people who like ancient stones and stone circles, there's something there, like there's some actual stones, and it draws attention to the camera to the actual stones. But this is about the surroundings as well. It's about the whole area. It's about the moors. It's about the river. It's about the route to the sea. It's about the symbolism and shapes of them, and they are beautiful to photograph. Actually, they are. These ones are, but you can actually go inside them, and there's something more to it, you know. Which is, it's like being in the womb basically, and this is not. This is more like looking at the elongation. You know, there's definitely. I think that I am right on this, and it's the number of them, and the river figures into it as well, and which way the orientation with the island. You know. And I think there is some symbolism in it. It might not be this exact precision lining up like Howard Crowhurst does with his longitude and latitude for all the stone circles, because they're lined up bang on perfect with immense precision. This is a little bit more symbolic, and it's a little bit more to do with how nature has given us these hills with resources and the river, and the long barrows are formed naturally by the wind and nature, but we kind of can have some sort of effect over it, but we sort of go with nature. You know, I don't think, knowing myself and knowing me when I was growing up as a kid, and what values I had, you know, kindness and sharing and love, and what this government has ended up doing to us, you know, I know how much the Romans have lied about us, because this government's lying about us now, about us good nature, and they're trying to make out we're villains, you know, and calling us racist and this and that, when they're lying to us, taking over as good government, claiming that we are sexist and or ageist or whatever, but then they go and ban gypsies from going on land and say, oh no, well, gypsies don't have no religion or no rights to the culture or anything like that. A hypocritical government. And that is the same attitude of what happened to our ancestors, who were very caring and loving. They made tributes to horses and thanked the gods for giving them horses, like the Uffington White Horse, up to the stars. Lots of beautiful, pretty sights. Like in South America, there were some beautiful sights. I'm not saying we didn't have as arguments and tribal troubles between each other, but there was an order of religion that was much more than that. And unfortunately, the Romans do not give us credit for that. And I think there are evolutionary aspects in it as well. And the government are very anti-evolution now. Boris Johnson and Pretty Tell are very, very anti-evolution. They've banned a lot of the religious sacraments that are tied into evolutionary aspects. And they want more technology. They only want progress in the technology so they can control us, and they want a deprogress in everything else, and then they can control us even more. And I don't think it's racist to say there are things happening on this planet that we're in blatant ignorance of, and the Tories don't want to talk about it because they're corrupt and they're criminals. And that's the problem. And I think that we need to face these issues, you know. There's always somebody better off than you and always somebody worse off, right? And it's about the intent and motivations and the way they go about doing it. What really gets me, the Tory scheming and planning and conniving, you know, and I don't like it. I don't like the way they go about it, you know. It's sneaky, really sneaky. And if you want to disagree with me, then you're welcome to, you know, if you think I'm wrong, but I'm not wrong about these sites, right? 3 sites, female, closer together, 3 male sites, spread out a little bit more, and symbolically, these are closer together and closer to the coast. Those are a little bit further apart, further from the coast, but all by river, and you know, that in its access from the same. And the fact is, God, I don't want to forget to say that, because the thing is, they're about the same. Talk about our Crowhurst, right, with longitude and latitude. They are essentially around, not far off, even, you know, by nature's random, you know, throw of the dice. They are essentially around the same horizontal line anyway. They're around the same horizontal line anyway. Is that the latitude or the longitude? They're not far off. Ours is slightly higher up, and it's interesting that it's up on the Pennines as well. So, you know, those three could have ended up being down there or right up the top, but they're essentially not far off midline with there anyway. So, you know, I think that is significant, very, very significant. And our sites have been ignored. And what's worst is no one talks about our sites and no one's interested in them. And I think that's how the way that the authorities wanted it to be. And when you try and get people inspired in them, they don't really understand them or get what they are. And the fact it's been built up, and now even if you want to get people over there, it's just an absolute bomb site. Well, one of them's all right. The other one's half on, half off. It's struggling. The other one's been obliterated. In fact, the one at the right-hand side, if you think of these going from left to right, the one that's been built on the Warrior Tomb, the one that's been built on and ruined on the top, is the one on the right side, on the right-hand side here, is the one that's all dug out and completely knackered out of these three, you know? So, and the one on the far left here with all the little ones around it, right, is like this one on the left, the most left part here, with all the little mushrooms growing on the moors, you know? So, figure that into it. And I don't think that is a load of rubbish. I just think that some of these archaeologists, unfortunately, are just not of the people of this culture. And I just think that in their minds, they haven't got the imagination for it. They're lacking key elements that recognise it and would have thought of it in the first place, and who it means something important to, important enough out of, you know, and there are whole areas of study to do with like the magnetism of the planet. We can feel like certain animals and all kinds of different stuff, which you can eat. It's every subject in the university. It is every subject. It is, you know, social studies, it is psychology, it's everything. It's all subjects. And unfortunately, now, this power that has put the imperial chemical industries on us and built the houses on top of there and built the mast, they will not accept our evidence and inherent expert opinion unless their accredited academics do validate it. And usually they're self-pursuant of their own career. They're self-pursuant of their own digs with their little gangs of students around them, not unlike, you know, these little ones around the Nof, you know. And they want to write the book, get it published, get the name up there. You know, some people, we don't care about getting it published. We don't care about getting his name up there. We don't care about getting the Pulitzer Peace Prize. We're not bothered. The reward is, for God's sake, save these sites while some of these men and women are digging them to shreds. Somebody, for God's sake, we know we don't need to learn anymore. And every time we try and explain it to the archaeologists, they do not understand. They're looking for the next flint axe, the next flint axe, the next flint axe. Yeah, we know flint axes now. They always need another clue. You know, but they're the clues that are there that don't need digging. They either do know and they don't want to acknowledge it or talk about it, or they're being secretive about it, or they just flaming well don't understand it, and no matter how many degrees they can get in their entire life, you could go around twice, you could give them 720 degrees, and they still won't quite get it, whereas other people just get it straight away. And they don't even need to go to university or acquire any academic paper. They might not have an extensive vocabulary. You know, they might not have chemical tests and bioassays and all this, but we get it, we understand. And I think we understand things that they don't understand because they don't want to. That's the problem with this. That's the whole problem with the whole thing.